4 is diagnose before you prescribe. So what do I mean by that? So a good way to give you an analogy to really get to the nitty-gritty of what I'm trying to get across is to use the analogy of the Titanic. So the captain of the Titanic was told he was sailing an indestructible, unsinkable ocean liner. Give me a bit of poetic license here. He sees a pissfully piece of ice floating around on the deep dark ocean and he goes, ha, I've got an indestructible ocean liner full steam ahead. So what destroyed the ship? It was the 90% that he didn't see. Now this is what happens when we're trying to sell an idea or a service or a product to a team or our client or a manager. We only see the 10% of what they actually want. We don't see the hidden needs, the 90% below the waterline, and that's actually driving the decision that's ultimately going to entice them to our solution, our idea, our service, our product. So I want to give you a little script or a formula that you can use to really tap into these hidden needs below the waterline. And I'm going to do that by sharing a real life example with you from when I first arrived in Australia as an immigrant several years ago. I needed to set up my own business and was told you need to go and get an accountant to give you 4 quarterly BAS statements and an annual tax return. And I had no idea what they were talking about. So off I trundled to a tax consultant and I said, stated need. I need 4 BAS statements and an annual tax return. But that was only 10% of what I really wanted. The real need is below the waterline. So I want you to be getting an example in your head as I'm doing this. I want you to get an example of a customer that you might be trying to sell a product or a service to, or a manager that you're trying to sell an idea to, or a team that you're trying to sell a project to. And I want you to think about what their stated need is, and that's only 10% of what they really want. And then I want you to think about what their real need is. So the real need is the big picture. It's the context. It's the situation that's causing the need for the stated need. So my real need was, I need you to explain the Australian tax system to me because I don't understand it. But I don't actually say that because I think it's implicit in my stated need. But I forget my tax consultant isn't a mind reader, and you're not a mind reader either. So we need to ask these questions to get this information. The next needs that we need to tap into are the unstated needs. The unstated needs. Now, in my next step, I'm going to talk about how we get those hidden unstated needs. But for now, I just want to refer to Dr. David Rock, a neuroscientist, who talks about the fact that every single person has 5 unstated needs, and he uses the SCARF model to explain those. But more on that in the next video. So moving on, the next need is a delight need. The delight need is something that you can offer, but your client or your team or your manager doesn't know that you have it to offer, so they can't ask for it. So in this instance, my delight need is that this tax consultant actually could create a spreadsheet for me with all the formulas ingrained in that spreadsheet, and all I would have to do is put the data and populate the spreadsheet, and voila, my BAS statement would be created. But I don't know to ask for that option because I don't even know it exists. And my final need is my secret need. Now this is probably a gem. This is a need we really need to get at. The secret need is the potential embarrassment of the client, awkwardness of the client or the manager, something they don't want to admit to, but they really want it. So it's something they could be ashamed about. So for instance, my secret need was, give me some tips and advice on how I don't have to pay so much tax to the Australian tax system. But I don't want to say that because I don't want them to think, oh my God, she's a bit dodgy. But I want to know it. So what does this mean for us? We need to be asking the right questions to tap into the real needs, the unstated needs, the delight needs, the secret needs. And only until we have answers to all these needs can we actually now step in and start talking about our solution, our ideas, our product or our service. So if this has whet your appetite, I would really love you to look out for step 5, uncover those hidden needs, and that's where we're going to get into these unstated needs. Now this is going to be a real gem, so I look forward to seeing you then. Until next time, be bold, be curious.